Yes, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back on this beautiful Monday evening for yet again another broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. And I hope you're all doing well. I hope you've had a wonderful start to the week. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Football Tribe. Apologies on that. Apologies on that. Anyways, plenty of things going on as we speak. But yeah, hope you've had a wonderful start to your week. It was a bright and sunny day with an afternoon downpour, as you'd expect a typical tropical climate in Uganda. 2 days to the polls. Uganda goes to the polls. The reason as to why I mentioned that is not because it has anything to do with our discussions here, but because it has everything and the ability to impact the progress of our discussions on here, or the routine with which our discussions go on here. Why? Because there's an expectation that internet will be shut down, which will impact our availability to be here. So I just want you guys to be cognizant of that fact, or cognizant of that fact, so that whenever, as of when it does happen, you're not caught off guard, you're not surprised to see us, not being here. But I hope everything will be okay, and should that be the case, that we will have an internet shutdown, I hope it won't be that long, that it won't be lengthy, it won't go on and on, forever, literally. So yeah, as I speak, we are following events from the Liverpool game against Barnsley in the third round of the English FA Cup, and Liverpool are leading by a 1-0 thanks to a long-range strike from Dominic Szoboszlai. So that's what is happening. Leah Batless says hi. Hi, Leah. Good to have you. Mazeda says, Spriti. Mazeda. Hi, Mazeda. Good evening. Good to have you on the broadcast. Where are you joining us from? My name is Robert Kesakos, and I'm coming to you live from Kampala, Uganda. It's 2 minutes past 11 p.m. East African time. So do let me know where you're joining us from, and what time it is. Just let me know down in the comments section. Otherwise, I hope you're all doing okay. And yeah, was just having our audios tested to make sure everything checks out really, really well. If you're a football fan, this is the place for you. Mazeda asks, how am I? I'm all right. Absolutely all right. I hope you're all right as well. But yeah, it's been quite an eventful day with a lot of news, with so many things happening in the world of football. Some not to the test of our liking, others we expected sort of to come. But yeah, the FA Cup draws for the fourth round have been conducted. Leah, are those flowers? What are you doing? I'm broadcasting, and I'm talking about football. That's why the channel is called @Football Tribe UG. So it's a football channel. In case you're a football fan, welcome to the channel. Thank you for joining us. Kindly do me the absolute honor and favor and subscribe to the channel if you're new here, but also like the broadcast. Yeah. So the FA Cup draws for the fourth round have been undertaken. So as Liverpool play, they wait to whoever goes through between Liverpool and Barnsley will meet Brighton and Hove Albion, who knocked out Manchester United over the weekend when they beat them by 2-1. So that's there. And then Chelsea have set themselves up for a tie with Hull City. That means Liam Rafinha will be going back to meet his former club where he did play and also managed. He played for them between 2010 and 2015 before managing them between 2022 and 2024, and then moved on to Strasbourg, RC Strasbourg in France, where he had been until the time of his departure to join Chelsea on a 6.5-year contract, with the 6th year being an option of, being extended. So essentially, it's a 5.5-year contract. So that's what's up from that regard, or from that front, in as far as things go. So, like I said, Real Madrid have part ways with the manager, Xabi Alonso. We'll be discussing that in great length. And then Michael Carrick is on the verge of being appointed as the new interim manager at Manchester United, ahead of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Mazeda says he's from Bangladesh. How is Bangladesh? How are things over there? What do I know about Bangladesh? A good country. They're good at cricket. That's one thing I know. The other is that I don't know if it's them, but they tend to have overcrowded trains. Is me RIP Sukuna? That's a Godba. Godba. RIP Sukuna, aka good to have you on the broadcast as always. It's a pleasure to have you around. Hope you've been doing okay. I hope you've been doing okay. So, meanwhile, West Ham's Lucas Paqueta could be on the verge of exiting, European football. So we'll be talking about that. 80 Ateka. I hope I'm pronouncing things right. But yeah, that's what is happening. I'm trying to set up something so that we get Jesus Christ. I hope it does work out, because it would do me an absolute. It would have done me an absolute favor if it does work out. Meanwhile, Juventus are in action against Cremonese, and that action is ongoing as we speak. So Juventus are leading by 2-0 after about 24 minutes played. So in case you're interested in that action, it's also ongoing as we speak. But yeah, earlier on, it was revealed that Real Madrid have decided to part ways with manager Xabi Alonso after, that's your favorite football. Okay, after a period of only 6 months? 6-7 months, thereabout, So they've decided to go separate ways. Now, I do not know, unless they do believe that the ends will justify the means. But for me, I find it a very unpopular decision. I find it the wrong decision to make in parting ways with Xabi Alonso, the manager who this season alone had managed the team through about 31 games across all competitions, 122 fixtures, drew 4, and I think lost about 5. I find that a very, very unbecoming decision to make on him. And the reason as to why I say that is because, as a Madrid fan, I believed in him greatly. Now, I knew for a fact that, yes, certain things had not gone well, but it's Real Madrid. And he's not a rookie of a manager, but he is a young manager, because he's managed a couple of teams here and there. But Bayer Leverkusen was the only big team that he managed, because Real Sociedad B, where he was, and then at Real Madrid under 14, those may not count really, really for much, But reports came out, or news broke, that Real Madrid had decided to part ways with Xabi Alonso. Now, what informed the decision? Obviously, over the weekend, that was on Sunday, Real Madrid lost to Barcelona, who beat them by 3-2 in the finals of the Spanish Super Cup, with goals from Vinicius Junior for Real Madrid and Gonzalo Garcia, while for Barcelona, it was a brace from Rafinha and Robert Lewandowski to win that Spanish Super Cup final by 3-2. Now, I do not know if Real Madrid as a management or as leadership have extended their frustrations of losing to Barcelona 4 times last season into this season. Because last season, Real Madrid got walloped by Barcelona 5-2 in the Supercopa España. Then they got walloped by 3-2 in the finals of the Copa del Rey. Then they got thrashed 4-0. And I think the other was a 4-3 victory still for Barcelona. That was in the La Liga. And, and that's why they decided that it was time to cut ties with Carlo Ancelotti. And they made the decision to go with young blood and appoint Xabi Alonso. Now, the bad part about managing Real Madrid is that literally your job is on the line from the minute you walk in. And what do I mean by that? You do not have the time to get things together, to sort of build a team. The expectation is you have a team, get the results. It's that simple, It's that simple. And as sad as that it is, Bangla, what's that? What's Bangla? Okay, so as sad as that is, I understand that Real Madrid are always prepared, squad-wise, that they always have a good squad. But I'm one of those who believes that present-day Real Madrid do not have the best squad in Europe. And the discussions could come up that probably they may not even be in the top 3 for best squads in Europe. Why? Because I possibly would go Arsenal, I'd go PSG, I'd go Bayern Munich, maybe. They are all subjective, depending on where the discussion leads. But maybe they look at it in the sense that, look, even Barcelona do not have the best of squads, and yet we get walloped day in, day out. And on top of not having the best squad in Europe, or that, they've also suffered so many injuries. That has been an issue this season. Mr. Kaku says, hey, bro. Hey, Mr. Kaku, good to have you on the broadcast. How old are you? I'm in my 30s. Thanks for asking. How are you, my brother? I'm good. Thanks for asking. Thanks for asking. I hope you're well. Where are you joining us from? On Monday evening. So, really, essentially, I understand that some results have not gone his way, but Real Madrid, given how they started the season, that's the best they could start it. I don't think they could have started it any better, knowing that they're under a new manager who was going to try out so many things. Mr. Kaku says is from Pakistan. And me, I'm from Uganda, small landlocked country in the eastern part of Africa called Uganda. That's where I am from. You can Google us. I do not know what the first Google impression results will be for you, but that's where I'm from. And it's about 12 minutes past 11 p.m. East African time. So thanks for asking. So when you look at the La Liga standings, Real Madrid are second with just 4 points behind Barcelona being the reigning champions. I do not think that's too much. I do not think that's too far off to be in a league table, to be in a league table. When you look around, and the result of them being second with 4 points behind was not a result of getting beaten by Barcelona. No. They beat Barcelona in the Spanish La Liga by 2-1. So in there, they played 19 games. They've won 4, they've drawn 3, and lost 2. So for me, I do not want to believe that it's the results from the Spanish La Liga. How do I want to believe that? When you go over to the UEFA Champions League, I know they've not had the best starts to that league format, but it's not like they are in danger of not making it to the knockout stages. I mean, they're seventh on that table after 6 games played, 4 wins and 2 losses. Now, being Real Madrid, that's not the best of results, but that's not the worst of it. Because let's not forget, the top 8 advanced directly to the knockout stages. And you do not have to go through a playoff. So that means all Real Madrid needed to do is win their final 2 games of the league stage format or the group stage format, and the future would have been bright. And yet somehow they've decided that no, the results are not what perhaps they expect of them to be, and they've decided to part ways with Xabi Alonso. And for me, like I said, as a fan, I do not agree with the decision. I thought he needed more time to build. He was still bringing in the results, even though he was still in the process of building. And yeah, that's the best you can hope for, So I'm trying to find out to read you the exact quote, because wow, that's a missed opportunity. Barnsley should be going level with that opportunity. But anyways, so he leaves with immediate effect at Real Madrid and has been replaced by a Real Madrid academic graduate and Real Madrid Castilla coach Alvaro Abiora, who did really, really well in the 2022-2023 campaign at that stage. So, but in reaction, Kylian Mbappe says, "It's been short, but it was a pleasure to play for you and learn from you. Thank you for giving me the confidence since day one. I will remember you as a manager who had clear ideas and knows many things about football. Best of luck for your next chapter." Now, I do not want to believe or to even think of it that Real Madrid players may have had an influence on the decision that Real Madrid have made here. Now, I understand he tried to tame egos, and perhaps some of his many rules did not go well with some of the senior players at the club. Hi, man. Nice to meet you. That's Kagi Brooks. Hi, Kagi Brooks. Good to meet you too. Thank you for joining the broadcast. Kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel if you're new here. So, I'm thinking, because over the last couple of weeks, those reports about some players being upset about some of his rules had sort of died down. But of course, given that they were there in the first place, they remain a factor. How big a factor, I cannot tell, But for Real Madrid, oftentimes a manager loses their job entirely if the results are not to the expectations of his bosses. Now, as soon as I saw the news that Xabi Alonso had part ways with Real Madrid, it was not an absolute shocker for me. But I remember thinking to myself, if not Xabi Alonso, then what's next for Real Madrid? Who is next in line? Because like I said, as soon as you're named Real Madrid head coach or manager, if you ever get the title, your job is at risk right from the onset. I do not remember the last time Real Madrid afforded a manager time to build a team, time to imprint on that team what he wants them to play. Because let's be honest, unlike the case is at Barcelona, it's hard to sit there and convince somebody that this is Real Madrid's culture in terms of a playing style. You know how whatever, regardless of whether it shines or rains, you'll know whichever the manager is, you'll know how Barcelona will play. That's it's tic-tac football, it's domination in possession, It's about passing that ball against the opponent to pass you into boredom, that kind of play, that tic-tac Spanish football. For Real Madrid, today you have counter-attack football. Tomorrow you have that bit of directness to them, and every manager with their style, you know. So their style is not rooted in the fabric of the club, you know, because largely for them it's about the results. Now I know the cliche or what will come as a comment about Fabio Capello getting sacked, even though he won a league title in 2006, and was it 2006 or thereabout, and yet he got sacked because they did not like his playing style. Whereas that could be the case, look at the managers that have been there largely. Go to Carlo Ancelotti, go to Zinedine Zidane, go to Jose Mourinho. Jose Mourinho was all about, the grit, the fight in the El Clasico. All the other games were about, we are Real Madrid, so we ought to beat you against the smaller teams. Their real battle lay with Barcelona and by extension Atletico Madrid, because it's a Madrid derby, So yeah, I look at it also in that sense. So Alvaro Abiola, is he going to be interim until the end of the season? Will results go his way, or if they do not go his way, will he get the sack? But for me, the grand question is, who is next? What next for Real Madrid? Now, of course, there are so many names that will be floated around in that conversation. Every time Real Madrid, I feel that there is a need to change, or that there could be a change in management. Oftentimes, Real Madrid fans are quickly run to Zinedine Zidane and say, he's one of the most successful Real Madrid managers in modern history, having guided Real Madrid to what? To the Spanish La Liga title, to 3 consecutive UEFA Champions League titles, and all that he did, But something about Zinedine Zidane did not convince me particularly, and perhaps another part of the footballing world, what he was really about as a manager, He walked into that dressing room with the trust of those players, having been a very, very excellent player himself in his playing days, having played for Real Madrid at the time when they still had Gareth Bale, the Cristiano Ronaldos, the Karim Benzemas, Luka Modric, Toni Kroos, and all some of the, Casemiro, and some of those elite players, And he managed that team really, really well, by the way, in terms of managing the individuals, and then subsequently have them have the fights. Wow, Liverpool are 2-0 up. There was a goal there from Jeremy Frimpong. Really, really brilliant run into the box before he fires that ball into the roof. It was just a brilliant goal. So 2 brilliant goals for Liverpool, have them in a 2-0 lead against Barnsley. Baraza bin Issa. Hi, good to have you on the broadcast. So really, to answer the question of who is next, like I said, every time there are questions over a current manager, usually a good number of Real Madrid fans or the footballing world thinks to themselves, are Real Madrid going to make that call to Zinedine Zidane? Well, he may not be the first phone call they make. Why? Because we know for a fact that Zinedine Zidane is seated somewhere in waiting for a call to take over the reins at the French national team, with Didier Deschamps expected to part company with the French national team after the World Cup 2026 that will be played in the USA, Mexico, and Canada. So I do not think that they will be able to woo him over to return. In any case, twice he was given the job, twice he voluntarily stepped down. And for me, the thing about Real Madrid I do not know whether it's about the board or some elements within the Real Madrid leadership, but there's a certain level of disrespect that comes with parting ways with Real Madrid. Regardless of whether you've been an excellent player, regardless of whether you've been a great manager, a lot of players have part ways with Real Madrid when they least expected it, when they did not want to. And we're not just talking about any players. We're not talking about Emmanuel Adebayo, Lassana Diarra, Michael Essien. No, not that crop of Real Madrid players. Sergio Ramos, Mesut Ozil, Angel Di Maria, Raul Gonzalez, Cristiano Ronaldo. Those are the kinds of players that we're talking about. Now, it's a business. Essentially, you do not expect a player to die at the club. In other words, they are bound to leave at one point or the other. And that the club ought to make decisions in their best interest as opposed to just what the preferences of those players could be. I understand that. But particularly the players that, in my opinion, felt were forced out of the club, and you thought to yourself, Raul Gonzalez. The time of Iker Casillas' departure. The status of those players within that club, for me, are what is off. So even when Zidane stepped down, you felt that there was something that wasn't right, because, like I said, he was not part ways with. He was not shown the exit. He opted to walk through the exit while there was still time. Anyways, so amongst potential replacements, high on Real Madrid's list, according to multiple sources, Dominic Szoboszlai just gifted Barnsley a free goal, literally. He tried to, do a back heel, to the goalkeeper. He did not need to do that inside the 16 yards box. And the Burnley player was there. He just marked that ball in the back of the net. As simple as that. I mean, he overplayed his hand there. He was a little too confident. Wow. He tracked back well enough, wins possession, and then he gets into the inside of the 16 yards box, and he tries to back flick it or back hit it to the goalkeeper, Gigi Madashvili, and he sort of can't get perfectly well under his feet. And then it's a goal for Barnsley. Out of nowhere, out of nothing. He's been one of the standout performers, Dominic Szoboszlai, in the opening 40 plus minutes of that game. And he's just given Barnsley a little bit of hope in this game, But anyway, that's football. So back to the Real Madrid conversation. So Jurgen Klopp, he's a name that has been discussed before. And when I look at the option of Jurgen Klopp, he's a great manager, that is without a question. Champions League winner with Liverpool in 2019, losing finalist for the Champions League with twice with Liverpool and once with Borussia Dortmund, a Premier League title for Liverpool after 30 years, 2 Bundesliga titles with Borussia Dortmund, a couple of cup competitions there in between. So he's a great manager, and we know what he's capable of or what he's about. But when I look back at his most successful managerial spells at Liverpool and at Borussia Dortmund, in both incidences, he took time to build those projects to what they became before they climaxed into the success that they were able to achieve. And we've just said the thing about Real Madrid is that the results are expected there and then. For Real Madrid, it's more like put water in a kettle, turn the switch on, and in 9 minutes, we're expected to have boiled water. It's not a traditional way, ordinarily, or the African way, where you would say, organize a set of 3 stones, fight your way into lighting a fire using firewood, and then wait for that fire to catch the flames that are worthy of cooking your tea. And maybe 30 minutes later or 40 minutes later, you'll have boiled water for tea. So that's the analogy I want to look at it. Now, one would argue that his experience at both clubs in Borussia Dortmund and Liverpool would have given him the sufficient lessons and experience to get a team going from the onset. But forget not, he's a different manager. He's very demanding. Some of those players have been complaining about Xabi Alonso being overly demanding. Now, when it comes to Jurgen Klopp, his teams he's all about demanding. He says, you can get so many things wrong, but you can't be faulted for effort. That hard work. He wants to see you running relentlessly. Is Rodrigo Goes going to give you that? Is Kylian Mbappe going to give you that? Remember, part of why Luis Enrique was very okay, Kylian Mbappe leaving PSG, was because tactically, when it came to ball recoveries or pressing, he was not at it with the rest of the team. And they ended up being more successful without him than they were with him. Are you going to demand that of Vinicius Jr.? He's a bit of a hot wire, Vinicius Jr. As good as a player he is, oftentimes he comes off as short-tempered, or a player or a person that can't have a command of his own emotions. So there are those questions. For players like Fede Valverde, Adagula, Jude Bellingham, Tchouaméni, Camavinga, those ones you do not have to worry about. Those ones you may not have to worry about. But it's the other players who are critical to that team, who Real Madrid, for purposes of branding, and particularly Kylian Mbappe, may not easily want to let go of. For Rodrigo Goes and Vinicius Jr., if you ask Florentino Perez to chop them in the morning, he will just say, get me who has the right money for them, and off they will be gone. So, for me, those are the reservations I have over the possibility of Jurgen Klopp taking over at Real Madrid. Currently, he's the head of global football at Red Bull Group, or those Red Bull clubs, and he stayed away from the touchline for quite a bit, and intentionally so. So those are two possibilities. We started off with Zinedine Zidane, Zizou, and Jurgen Klopp now. Then there have been subtle mentions of Andoni Iraola as a modern choice. Young manager, we know he's been fairly successful with FC Bournemouth, not in the form of titles, but in the form of where he's gotten them. Last season, they had their biggest or best finish in the Premier League table, and with the highest point tally in the club's history in as far as the Premier League is concerned. But Andoni Iraola to manage Real Madrid, that's quite a significant step. It's not to say that managers have not made it before, but because I remember Luis Enrique leaving Celta Vigo to go to Barcelona, and I had some reservations at the time. and obviously he proved me wrong. But for Andoni Iraola, walking into the demands of that dressing room without the pedigree that Xabi Alonso walked in with, having guided Bayer Leverkusen to the Bundesliga title in 2023-2024 campaign, leaves so many question marks than answers for me on that name. Hi, Pedri. How are you doing? Good to have you back on the podcast. You say Victoria Visca El Basa or El Baka, whichever way you pronounce it, potato, 3-2. Yeah, we discussed that results. Unfortunately, I did not see you return for the broadcast in the aftermath of the game. Maybe immediately you are still into some wild celebrations of your own, but because it wasn't long after the final whistle that we also left. But we're hoping to have you rejoin us. You say Xabi Alonso has resigned. This is what happens when you put so much pressure on your manager. Now, so like I said, for me, as a Real Madrid fan, it does not feel one bit as the right decision for Real Madrid to part company with Xabi Alonso. I do not feel at any one point that it's the right decision. Because, like I said, as soon as I saw that news that they've part company, my first question was, who is it next to take over at Real Madrid? Who is going to be the right candidate? Because as time goes on, it's going to constantly feel like there is never an absolute right manager for Real Madrid. Now, again, according to the bookies, among the options they are looking at is Simone Inzaghi. Simone Inzaghi, the former Inter Milan manager. Again, he's a man capable of withstanding pressure, whatnot. He has the experience, having managed, of course, at Inter Milan, guiding them to 2 finals of the UEFA Champions League, both of which they lost in 2023 and 2025 to Manchester City and PSG, respectively. He's been to Lazio, where he didn't win much, but he got them to be a very, very competitive side, and things like that. At the moment, he's out at Al Hilal, where he replaced, I think, George Jesus, So, but, I mean, he is an okay candidate, But for me, like I said, for every manager that is named at Real Madrid, it feels like your job is on the line as soon as you walk in the door, before you even get your boys to kick a ball, You're always 1, 2, 3 results away from the media turning on you or getting the sack. Because I don't know if there's many managers that have been that have had a favor with Spanish media. And by Spanish media, I mean those that report on a daily basis about Real Madrid and about Barcelona. For Barcelona, you've had managers that have been in their good books. Pep Guardiola, to a fair extent, Luis Enrique, Tito Villanova was in good books. Gerard Martino, no, never at any one point. At least it felt for me. So whoever the next candidate is, and like we said, at the moment it's going to be Alvaro Abiola. I do not know for how long. I don't know whether it's just going to be another Darren Fletcher for Real Madrid to go out there and search for another manager, or they'll have to wait until the summer. Look at what happened with Julian Lopetegui. Now, like I said, they do not give you the time. Could they consider Vincent Kompany? I do not know. Now, among the wild considerations, but before we get to that, let's see what Pedri else is saying. Says, yes, everyone was celebrating on the streets. That's his response about, not returning back on time for our broadcast yesterday. And he says, an absolute disgrace from Florentino Perez. This was not the right decision. He wasn't losing every game. There is no clear better replacement. He just joined. He knows the club. He actually has tactics, but needs time. A young coach, shocking. Yeah, I'm back from Okay, this is Daniel Tuton. He says he's back from his hamstring injury that he suffered a couple of weeks ago. How are you, Daniel Tuton? Good to have you back on the broadcast. So, you're absolutely right. The same reasons you highlight in your submission, Pedri, are the ones that we did highlight in our own discussion or review of the decision that Real Madrid have taken or the course of direction they've taken. This is a manager who has been at Real Madrid as a player and as a coach before with the under 14s. So he knows that club inside out. And you brought him to correct what you deemed was not going the right way last season. And only halfway through the season, when he's only lost 5 games, had 4 draws and 22 victories, and you've shown him the exit already. That means that begs the question of who will ever be good enough for Real Madrid, you know? So Pedri says, I play for Santos. Oh, no, sorry. This is Daniel Tutron says, I play for Saints Academy. I remember you saying Saints Academy. And I remember questioning, is it Saints like Southampton or what? Now you say it's for Saints Academy. Do you play football? Yes, I play football for Barcelona. Pedri, kid, what? Unless you play for Barcelona Fans Football Club. I am Pedro Gonzalez, in brackets Pedri. Anyways, so among the wild suggestions that have been named is Francesc Soler Fabregas. And for me, as soon as I saw that name, I was asking myself, what are the odds that a former Barcelona player would go to Real Madrid as a manager? And what are the odds that Real Madrid fans would even give him a chance? We know that Cesc Fabregas is a very young, exciting manager for his ideas and how he goes about football, doing wonderful things with Como. But I do not think, and I've not come to believe, that Cesc Fabregas is ready for the demands that would come with a top club like Real Madrid. Because it's one thing to be successful with Como, it's a whole different thing to have the same success if you are to go to Real Madrid. So it's quite different. Can I have your number, Pedri? No, you creep. Come on, Pedri. It's not a creep. Please. Okay. So those are the options, or some of the names that have been floated around as possible replacements. Like we said, Raul Abiola, Alvaro Albiola is the interim, and he's been with the Real Madrid. He's managed at the Real Madrid different levels, at the under 14s, at the under 19s, where he won a domestic treble in 2022, 2023, and then he's been at Castilla. That's a reserve team. So Daniel Tutron says you're not Pedri. Oh, I thought you're talking about Xavi, Mr. Tribe, but Fabregas is more likely. Really? No. I was talking about Francesc Soler Fabregas. I do not think Real Madrid would even consider Xavi. I do not think so, unless it were the only option that there was at their disposal. So I don't even think Xavi would say yes to Real Madrid. I do not know. I can never say never, because the world can be full of surprises. But I do not think that will happen. That's like me saying you're not Daniel Tuton. Can I have your number then? Okay, so it's going to either be Zinedine Zidane, who I've told you is very unlikely since he's waiting for the French national team job. Jurgen Klopp is a huge option. Andon Iraola has been mentioned. Then Cesc Fabregas has been mentioned, and Simone Inzaghi. The other name that I want you to add to that list, although it's a bit of a wild card, is Enzo Maresca. Yep, Enzo Maresca. He's a highly regarded coach in modern football or in European football. He's just part ways with Chelsea, so he's jobless, which takes us to the vacant managerial role at Manchester United. So, Manchester United are expected to announce Michael Carrick as an interim manager sometime this week after positive talks, after the last set of talks in which everything was almost agreed according to multiple sources. Because, for example, Fabrizio Romano said Michael Carrick has accepted all conditions for Manchester United contract proposal. The agreement is almost done and it will be sealed this week. As expected, here we go soon. That's according to Fabrizio Romano. Now, apparently, whereas the figures that would have preferred Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, it's being reported that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer made some demands that the club did not see eye to eye with or did not agree with. For example, it's being reported or rumored that he floated the idea that should he be able to guide the club to a top 4 finish, then he should be given a permanent job. In other words, from interim to permanent manager, as was the case back in 2018. You remember he got Jose Mourinho gets sacked, and then Ole Gunnar Solskjaer comes in as interim. He manages the club through the end of the 2018-2019 season and is given a permanent role before they part ways with him. And then Michael Carrick took over as interim. So looks like the club were not okay with that or were not open to such any talks. So, which takes us to the conversation of Michael Carrick. Yes, it's going to be interim. For Michael Carrick, it's a very, very good platform, managing Manchester United, to have that added to your CV. But also, if you do well, there could be plenty of options for you in the summer. Crystal Palace's Oliver Glasner's contract runs out at the end of the season. So that means there could be a possibility that Crystal Palace do not have a manager at the end of the season. FC Bournemouth's Andoni Iraola's contract apparently ends up at the end of the season. Then Marco Silva at Fulham, his contract is out of contract at the end of the season. So that means those are 3 Premier League clubs that could be up for grabs or that could be in the market for a manager come the end of the season. So if you're Michael Carrick, you do fancy yourself having agreed with the club that possibly you're never going to get that role as a full-time manager, that if you do well with Manchester United, any of those clubs could be considering you. And out of Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, and Fulham, which one would you be comfortable with? The choice would be yours. Crystal Palace do not seem to have sufficient resources, so you may have to struggle. Bournemouth do not have as much resources as well, but they do invest in the team after parting ways with players. Fulham are not also doing well with resources. We saw how the transfer business went over in the summer. Okay, let me see if any of your comments is okay. You guys are having a chat there. I'll take Fulham. That's Pedri for a suggestion. Liverpool, yes. By the way, I do not know. I don't think Liverpool would consider taking on Michael Carrick, but I was thinking, for what next for Xabi Alonso? He will come in consideration for Manchester United, because among the choices Manchester United will consider now is Xabi Alonso, Enzo Maresca. Now, the reservation on Xabi Alonso would be that he does not have Premier League managerial experience, and yet apparently Man United are going to consider having a manager who has Premier League experience. Anna Slot at Liverpool, he's not yet out of the woods yet. Possibly Liverpool are thinking we have until the end of the season to assess a situation, to assess what his overall performance would have been throughout the season for Anna Slot. And should it be deemed at the end of the season that his results have been wanting and so they should part ways with him, then Xabi Alonso could be a huge consideration in that team. So, like I said, I do not expect Michael Carrick to take on a role at Liverpool. Maybe not that he wouldn't take it on. I do not think Liverpool will take him on. He's a former Manchester United player. Let's not forget the rivalries. I'm not saying it can never happen, but the possibility of that happening is quite minimal. Crystal Palace have no players. Bournemouth Stadium is at Fulham is good. Bournemouth have plans to expand on their Vitality Stadium. That's for one. Fulham have been a bit unstable, going back and forth in terms of promotion and being relegated. So when it comes to resources of building a team, maybe for Michael Carrick it works. For a manager that part ways with Middlesbrough. So anyway, any of those three clubs would be a big pick for him, or would be better than Middlesbrough, where he had been since 2022, until 2025 at the end of last season. Daniel says, "Bye. Thomas Frank made a mistake leaving Brentford. No, Liverpool is so bad. Liverpool, okay. I do not think Thomas Frank made a mistake leaving Brentford. So I will disagree with you there, Pedri. Why? Tottenham is a Mars upgrade compared to Brentford. That's the honest bit. The challenge for Thomas Frank is that I do not think he's experiencing anything different from what Jose Mourinho, from what Antonio Conte did experience at Tottenham. Antonio Conte spoke about the attitude around Tottenham Hotspurs. And Jose Mourinho alluded to the same things of how they're not built for success. It's not in their mindset to be working towards success. Just to try to rephrase what their impressions were at the time of those speaking. So for Thomas Frank, if they want him to succeed, it will take time to build that project. So many things have gone wrong for him. And when I say so many things, I mean results. They've been far from convincing this season. But when a club's going to start trusting managers to build projects, because if you go from Ange Postecoglou having one bad season and you sack him, yet even in that bad season he won you a major title, and go for a new manager, for a new project, and then after one season you're chopping it, or what are the chances to say that you're not going to find yourselves in the same shoes in 2 years' time or in another year's time? Unless, of course, you're going to bring back Mauricio Pochettino, who a lot of Tottenham fans tend to think that he knows the ins and outs of the club and he's the only person capable of bringing them back to a semblance of success. What I need to remind some of those Tottenham fans is that even as great as Mauricio Pochettino was, because he guided them to the finals of the UEFA Champions League in 2019, and also second place finish in the Premier League at one season, he did not win them anything. Nothing. Not even a Community Shield. Not that I don't remember that they even ever played in one, but as a point. So, for Tottenham and Thomas Frank, they ought to be patient. They ought to build. And latest reports from the Tottenham Hotspur ranks, they say they are going to back Thomas Frank. Vinay Venkatesham, who is the current CEO at Tottenham, comes from a history of having been at Arsenal where they trusted Mikel Arteta, and even though he's yet to win anything major besides the FA Cup that he won in his debut half season, they stuck with him and he's built a good project that is perhaps one special season away from winning major silverware, you know? So yeah, that's how I look at it. Or that's how it is. So anyways, for Manchester United, again, for their permanent managerial role, Enzo Maresca, Xabi Alonso has come into the mix. When you wait for the World Cup to end, if you're interested in Carlo Ancelotti, it could be a considerable option for you. You could have Thomas Tuchel. So, contrary to initial reports from last week that Luis Enrique had turned down a contract offer, reports say that's not the case. And his contract does not run out at the end of the season, as earlier on reported, but rather after 2027. But away from all that, if I'm Man United, one, high on my list would be, in terms of considerations, for my next manager, I'll put Thomas Tuchel top of that list. I'll go with Enzo Maresca in number 2. Premier League experience is there. Number 3, I'll put Xabi Alonso. Number 4, I'll put Carlo Ancelotti. Nothing to do with his pedigree for putting him fourth, but he's not the kind of young manager that most clubs are looking for. He's a very experienced, come-of-age manager. So it puts him at number 4 for me. So putting him fourth has nothing to do with what he's won or not won previously. So that's in the top 4. Then at number 5, I'd put Julian Nagelsmann among considerations for managers that would be open to the managerial role at Manchester United. Those that are without work and those are at national teams. Please bear in mind that I've not taken any considerations for managers that are currently with any of the big clubs or at any big club or even a small club who are currently having jobs. Kian McKenna has been mentioned. I wouldn't have him in my top 5. He would come possibly 6th. Andoni Iraola, Oliver Glasner from Crystal Palace, they would come that bottom. But for me, that's how I'd grade it. On the side of Real Madrid, just to drift a little bit back, even if they were to get Julian Nagelsmann, he would be no different from the story that it is of Xabi Alonso. I feel that he would suffer the same fate. So if I'm Real Madrid, I'm considering Jurgen Klopp, Thomas Tuchel as top candidates. I do not think bringing back Carlo Ancelotti is a plausible discussion. We've discussed that Zidane is far off of it. So, like I said, I would go Jurgen Klopp, Thomas Tuchel, Simone Inzaghi. Then the others will follow. That would be how I would rank them, in that sort of format when it comes to that. Anyways, guys, the game between Liverpool and Barnsley is still 2-1 in favor of Liverpool. They're searching for their third goal. Realist Barnsley are still hoping they can get an equalizer in this one. But quickly, on the FA Cup draws, before we go into the transfer speculation and news that there is as of this evening. Whoever advances between Liverpool and Barnsley will meet Brighton and Hove Albion. Stoke City have Fulham. Oxford United have Sunderland. Southampton will take on Leicester City. Wrexham will take on Ipswich Town. Arsenal have Wigan Athletic at the Emirates Stadium. Hull City will entertain Chelsea. Burton Albion will be up against West Ham United. Burnley will take on Mansfield Town. Norwich City will be up against West Bromwich Albion. Port Vale will be up against Bristol City. Grimsby Town will take on Wolverhampton Wanderers. Aston Villa will be up against Newcastle. Very entertaining. I think the biggest fixture of the fourth round of the FA Cup. Manchester City will be waiting for whoever advances between Salford City and Swindon Town. That game will be played tomorrow. Then Macclesfield FC will be up against Brentford, while Birmingham City will take on Leeds United. That's the FA Cup draws. Away from the FA Cup draws, transfer news has been heating up. Now, Aston Villa held positive talks with Conor Gallagher and Atletico de Madrid, and they had a verbal agreement or had verbally agreed a deal with Atletico de Madrid, with apparently with reports suggesting that it was to be a loan deal with an obligation to buy. But Tottenham Hotspur came into the talks and blew them out of the water. They came and made an upfront deal to the tune of 40 million euros. And it's a here we go. The player just informed Atletico Madrid about his decision to join Tottenham. Spurs will pay 40 million euros as permanent deal to beat Aston Villa. So looks like a player who has been greatly discussed by Man United for a long time, has been, linked with the potential move to Man United. Spurs have always been in the conversation, and lately Aston Villa looks like he's destined for a move to Aston Villa. So that report was earlier on broken or confirmed by David Ornstein, who said Tottenham Hotspurs are closing in on a deal to sign Conor Gallagher from Atletico Madrid, clubs nearing agreement after Tottenham made a 40 million euro proposal expected to be accepted by Atleti. 25-year-old England international believed to be keen on the move. But it's, like I said, Fabrizio Romano confirmed it, that it's a here we go. Speaking of transfers, this is not a transfer, but Steven Botman at Newcastle has signed a new deal at the Magpies until June 2030. And then in the other transfer news was Joao Cancelo arrived today in Barcelona to complete his loan move, from Al Hilal. Barcelona will be expected to pay 4 million euros as loan fees there. And then still about transfer news in regards to what is cooking up, Lucas Paqueta has reached an agreement, according to Fabrizio Romano, with Flamengo on personal terms, all done on player side. Paqueta wants to return to Brazil, and talks are now ongoing with West Ham. It's up to West Ham with a player pushing to make it happen. I think this would be a dream move for Lucas Paqueta, so I completely understand for his part wanting to return home, but he would be a huge loss to West Ham United, for a team that is already struggling, not just this season, but ever since last season. So it's not the kind of deal that I would advocate for West Ham to do, but I do understand if the player wants to move or to let him go. Then AC Roma are pushing on both Robinho, Vaz, and Daniel Malin deals with Olympique Marseille and Aston Villa. Club-to-club agreement on the way, 25 million package for Vaz, along with option to buy for Daniel Malin. Again, I don't know, do Aston Villa need to sell? But anyways, Aston Villa did sign Bran Mojo as a new striker from Metis, so there's a possibility that he leaves, given that they have Oli Watkins and Daniel Malin. Then Zlatan Ibrahimovic's son, Maximilian Ibrahimovic, did complete his medical at Ajax Amsterdam ahead of completing that move to his father's former club. So this is the first January transfer window that has not felt so much as a transfer window. I don't know if it's just me who has not been keeping tabs with everything transfers, but it's felt like there's so very little transfer activity ongoing, maybe particularly because, big clubs have sort of shied away from it, really. But yeah, let's wait and see. But one to watch is going to be Crystal Palace's Mark Kay. Bayern Munich are really, really interested. Liverpool are interested. Man City are interested. Arsenal are interested. I do not know why Chelsea are not throwing their hat in the ring for him, but for me, be a very, very should be a considerable candidate for Chelsea. So, anyways, guys, it's been 1 hour. Liverpool are still 2-1 up against Barnsley. allow me to wrap it up here and wish you guys a blessed night. Thank you so much, Pedri. Thank you so much, Daniel Tuton. Thank you so much, what's his name? Mazeda. Thank you so much, Leah Bartless. Thank you so much, Godba, aka RIP Sukuna. Thank you so much, Mr. Kaku from Pakistan, and every single one of you that managed to tune in. Kagi Brooks, thank you so much. And every single one of you that has managed to be part of this broadcast. It's always a pleasure. Let's do this again tomorrow morning, provided all factors are kept constant. Like I told you guys, if you do not see me on Thursday, Friday, or even Wednesday night, it could be due to an internet shutdown in the country as we head to the polls. So in case you do not see me during that time, please bear in mind that those could be the reasons as to why I may not have made it on the channel. Otherwise, ceteris paribus, if all factors are kept constant, we will be here to bring you and discuss the latest. Why is there an internet shutdown? Well, Uganda is going to the polls on Thursday. They will be electing. We'll be electing our next president for the term 2026-2031. We'll also be electing our parliamentary, representatives. So because government is on edge with the opposition, and you know how autocratic governments or dictatorial governments operate here in Africa. It's become a standard operating procedure for governments to shut off internet during the election period or the immediate post-election period. So I'm not saying it is going to happen. I'm simply saying there are very, very high chances of that happening. So in case you do not get the chance for us to interact, those will be the reasons. Otherwise, if the situation remains as is, then we will always be here to have the discussion. But thank you so much, guys, for always dedicating the time. Thank you so much for your feedback, for your discussion, your engagement, and everything in that line. Have a blessed night, and bye-bye for now.